start right now. A very good start off at the front then as drivers will start to try and funnel and find themselves a way through. They go through the small kick trying to get the power down. They'll all funnel onto the apron here, trying to get the most narrowest line as close to that inside wall as they possibly can. They now start to fan out single file towards turn number 2 and hoping that they've got what it takes. Here, big accident, huge accident. Someone forgot to hit the brakes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars involved. The track is jammed in the middle here as they go on through, and surely a safety car must be called for that. That was a huge accident, all going wrong, and what's the big worry about oval racing as they go on through. You can see it right now. Look how many vehicles got caught up in all of this then as they went on through. I count 4, I count 5, I count 6 drivers all getting caught up in all of that at the front of the championship here on the junior category event. Everyone down low. One driver just coming out of the pits right now, going to intervene through all of this, but Aguilar gets through without any real worries at all. And around the outside, you don't often see them, and it was well done. It turned to the inside for the next part of the corner, and that was comfortably done. Very good at finding them through the right-hand bend and over towards 4. Here's Nambi Chowdhury trying to get in on the action as well, trying to get close enough to make a move through the S section. That'll be a slowdown penalty there. It is really disadvantaged here, but he can take the later braking line into the corner and has just zoomed on by around the outside. A little Shambada, who has dropped back down to 8. Oh, 8th place, big spin, contact most likely with that. Driver lights the flag for Garvin Aguilar. Second will be going to Panchal, and Ted Patel will be the one picking up the podium. So Janak Panchal there having a very good run. There is Jahan Noble in 4th. Right now, and it's a really nice start off the front there from Amitesh Rao. No real worries at all as they head towards turns 1, 2 and 3 out here on the circuit here. There's small left into a larger left as they hit the brakes and go on through. Is everybody okay? One vehicle running on 5 from about 5th place backwards as more drivers running themselves into trouble. It looks like someone's gone straight on then, and that's not ideal, and there's more spinners, and there are 2 off in the grass there at the back. So there are dramas then early on in this one, not so far for those at the front of the field. It's the break through the left, down the front, into the banking. Goodbye, good night. A big shift to Garvin Aguilar, the championship leader here, and that's another of points. Better go because of this. Going through and trying to pad up early on the cold side. That is Aguilar all the way back now. Position number 12. They fight for third. Over and somehow keeping it all going, but the wheel is off the wagon, and there goes I think that was not Nambi Chowdhury, but who was next to Nambi Chowdhury? There was Nambi Chowdhury, I should say. Look at that, bang, up, over, and this needs to start changing. Head here, they head to this next section right now. Coming up underneath, gonna get over the side, gonna try and dive through on the inside, and well, no real worries about that one then. At the moment, a search warrant is all that it is at this stage. And oh no, Isham Bada into the wall, and that is surely going to have to be a little bit of a recovery right now. Panchal, there's White just in front actually of Panchal. Oh no, all 3 of them have come together in a big accident, in a huge way. Going through, we looked at it from Panchal. It was Garvin Agrawal on the outside. Who was it on the inside then that got caught up in that one? It wasn't Tej Patel, it was actually someone else. So Agrawal there with some contact, and bang, all around they go. Patel, who's gone around for an oopsie-daisy here at what is the corner going onto the oval bank line. This one down the inside, sorry, going up high side. But no, that's second place, so nothing's happened. I think you're right. This is second, and it is. That's the place, so there's nothing happened to right here at Daytona. And now Siddharth Snell is going to try and go around the outside and pick this one up. Has that one worked out in favour? Oh, you bet it does. So, Siddharth Snell getting around the outside, making that move there at Everton. Catches on replay, and that very nearly ended up with a bit of contact there going. Doing exactly what was needed there. Into the break, and just moving the car as the unsettled going off the oval banking on the road course. at the limit of what the pace is going to be capable of doing. They can see just above it in the air, and looking around the outside in third place. Good. Can you slow it down? Can you slow it down? Yes, you can. Good. Oh, Chowdhury's done exactly the same. He's going to have to take an extra pit exit then. Going on through. Oh, dear me. That's not ideal. But we're going to look at a driver who should be doing well. We're going to see right now how things go off the flat almost. Off goes Chowdhury again. And there's no tyre. He's caught on the inside. That's a horrible, horrible accident there. So now means Chowdhury on the start of the last lap. That will effectively be 3 mid wheels on my wagon, trying to bring the car home. Amatesh Rao takes the junior category Formula race here with a lights to black victory, and one thoroughly deserved by the way that the drive was conducted. Second position there goes to Devjit Adak, heading over the line, and it will be right to get that third place as they cross over into the fourth Snell fifth. What's the recovery for Agrawal? And going here in this race. That is a Global Warrior in second. It's a good start for Budiraja here at the front of the field. They will all funnel through towards turn 1, turn 2. And it looks like Cozen, looks like Bell Warrior's already off and into the wall hard there. Into the back of John. So not ideal at all as they make a start. Someone spins, 2 more go around, and more dramas there. As I believe that's Kuti who's been caught up in all of it. A massive accident then to start through turn 2, and surely a caution flag. They just have to be waved with troubles here and troubles there. So those drivers have ground themselves into the pit. Our turn and sit up in Alaska, but into the underneath the next start positions there. That is not part of the game. They'll have to get a big look at how that one all came about there, and that will take the fire off the Alaska. Sort of shot going at it, trying to pick this one up, and does so, question mark, going through turn 4, yes, that's in the middle, so that's going to be a case of dive down to the inside, oh no! Traffic took the normal line. Ibrahim was trying to get down the inside, and there's the contact going through. You have to yield if you're lap traffic there. Mohamed Ibrahim, he had his nose fully alongside on the inside, and that is just a case of a driver swiping away around, and that is nothing that Mohamed Ibrahim can do in that scenario. One is a huge accident with Federer, who had 3 wheels, spun it, and bang into the side. Nothing he can do. Federer was trying to bring his sprint car home, and I think he's just got a toe in at that point. That's a little bit silly trying to drive back towards the vehicle home. He's got absolutely nothing going for it here. Padilla under pressure, still looking to score the win behind him. The right to get out of the way on the front stretch side. The man wants to dive through on the inside. By so quickly, it has been so entertaining. We haven't really had a chance to talk driving position. This guy Isaran has got to get to the inside here. He thinks about it. Oh no! No! Both of them run into each other, and now it's a case of can they get it home from where they are. Saran starts to struggle on the power, and now that will bring more drivers in like Karen Kovshik, who could very easily pick up a top 5 out of this compared to Saeed Saran. Win number 6 of the season for Mohamed Ibrahim, who becomes over the line. Frisbee will take a second, and we'll have an acknowledgement that that one went one way and one way only. Third place goes to Saeed Sanjay. Fourth, it looks like Phil Kostak on the Diaz, and Karen Kovshik has found a way through on Saeed Saran to pick up the top 5. Starting group then for this one is going to be a very interesting battle. There is the green Mohamed Ibrahim and Sai Sanjay on the front, Hamid Kuti and Sai Saran. Naraja on a 4 qualifying side Frisbee, just back there in 6th place. Oshan Company and Raghav Budiraja. They can cross 8 around this point. The Warriors, Samuel Mendoza, Hamid Godi and Coach, we share our jump from Sai and Sunday. Mohamed Ibrahim, though, has got the whole shot in with turn number one time. Ibrahim, that's where he wants to be. That's the one to be. Sunday there in second position. Wide open. Trying to gather back up again. Under pressure down here. For third place. Goes down the long and stretch. Down inside Bombardier, make sure that he's in position right now. Bombardier goes off the circuit, trouble not far off the circuit. There's a big bit of contact in the background there. Who on earth was that? Ran himself into a whole heap of trouble. Double goes straight to Mike Barrett and Moses. And I think this was right Samaravel. 6 minutes the outside went off. There's a figure in the background as well. As that is both right up to the Raja and the Warrior. And it's not as well at the back of the back. So Raja loses it trying to gather the car back up on circuit. Outside Brittany though in 6th. Trying to get through 6th position right now. The right front two bar. This is the prime place to get it done. Onto that mission way. Down into the front corner and down the inside. That is the back now. Right Brittany. There's a chance to attack back. Back straight. Right locked up. Goes wide. Three of them. Little close together. Catch this on replay. You can see gets right up underneath. Jams on the brakes, locks the inside front, and builds all momentum moving through to Brookwood's corner, but able to keep this race going the way that he would want to right now. Cy Frisbee knows he needs to stuff back. Saran is making mistakes, and those behind Godia now is going to be a sitting duck for Karen coaching, who's going to go to the inside here to try and pick up this move. Right now, Federage is not close enough to really capitalize, and on the inside, what can Dini and Godia do? Defend on the outside, hard to the pit wall, and Frisbee will have to go the long way round to make this one happen. Brilliant defense there by Saeed Saran, using the road, taking the line away from Saeed Frisbee, and ultimately choking him out of the position effectively. And now the Rajan Kumar wants it, he's not going to give up on a 4th position either. Here in terms of this battle to go on through. This is Mohamed Ibrahim won't mind, he's going to pick up the race victory here and get this 7th season. It's going to be Sunday who holds on to second and third. Let's say very much snowy situation right now. It is Spa-Francorchamps, and we are about 10 minutes away from the end of qualifying right now. My name's Shakespeare, joining you here for the action at this moment in time. Akinuri Ablash is on screen, 2:22 flat, the current fastest time that we see at this moment here, as these drivers will be looking to try and get themselves moving forward and get themselves up through the order as much as they possibly can here with everything that is going on in this battleground that we seem to have. So we'll definitely see how this is all going to be playing out in the long and the short of things. But at the moment there is Thomas Cherian here, who is currently classified in 3rd position right now, and this is a snowy landscape today at Spa-Francorchamps, one of the greater circuits that I'm sure that all these drivers tend to find and tend to go and get out and get enough there. There is Renuka trying to put some times in. 2:36.2 at the moment is about 14 seconds off of the pace, but there is still time on the horizon to go and find all that is needed, and maybe, just maybe, we can see just how important a lap around this place tends to be. This is a tough circuit. Let's try and get ourselves on board and fly around this circuit then, here of the circuit to Spa-Francorchamps. So, of course, today we've got ourselves a couple of races to jump into here today. Of course, we're through qualifying at this moment, 10 minutes of that, and then we'll be heading over towards a 20-minute race, which will be all about who can find what they need at that, before we'll have a second race to jump into then on top of that, before we get ourselves into the third race of the day, which will be very, very important to find. So a lot of work to get in. Thomas Sherrian here at the moment, currently classified now in 4th position on a 2:26.5. But Akinori clear by about 3 seconds at the moment in qualifying. Here is Yash trying to find some times. 1:43.1 currently the benchmark at this stage, as we keep an eye out and see how things are going for this little run right now. And the answer here is a little bit further down the order, just 7 seconds adrift then with that, as we get ourselves drivers ready to start some laps. Very tough to get correct there, that final section. And there's a spin on the AstroTurf, which is a little bit frosted over today, so it's going to be very, very slippery if you find yourself off the line around this sort of track. Little drift there from Yash Pickler there, trying to make progress through the field and make a way through qualifying that is going to be very, very astute and working to the best of abilities, I think is the right way to say. Nick Hill out on a outlap at this stage. Of course, the name not quite fully there. We are on Assetto Corsa, so we've got ourselves a lot of drivers trying to find everything that they need today to move forward and get themselves the results that they need. And that's how you don't do it here at this part of the track. A big off then over through Pooh on the double apex left-hander, and snowy conditions, so it's always going to be tough when you find yourself on the outside looking in, as Simon Shankar will be hoping for a good start to the lap here in what is good starting positions. But there is Akinori Abalash here at this stage, just 3 seconds clear at the front, and absolutely flying when it comes to qualifying, which is already halfway through on the books, and everyone is trying to find just a little bit more in terms of what we are finding. So we're going to be getting ourselves pretty tight in with some of this action here. Akinori Abalash is trying to do everything possible to get more time, as we take a little look around the vehicle and see just how aggressive you need to be around this circuit here. Just a little bit off the pace with this lap, 2 seconds adrift then through the middle sector, going through now onto the final sector and attacking hard in the later stages then of this lap, which leads, of course, to the big left-hander of Blanchimont, which is a scary corner at the best of times, and then everybody else is going to be hoping that they get themselves a good finish to that lap, which of course includes this final chicane, which has changed many a times over the course of Spa-Francorchamps' long history. And on the brakes goes Akinori Abalash then to take the final couple corners and attack through the final section. We go on board and keep an eye out there. One car off on the right-hand side, just pulling out of the way. 2:23.996, that's 1.9 seconds quicker than needs be at the moment. Going through the opening corner, you can see just how the tyres are maybe a little bit snowed up here, and that's not going to be ideal with such cold temperatures and conditions that we have here today. Up the hill to Eau Rouge and Radion looks very picturesque here with the snow that has fallen around this place, and up the hill and trying to get the power down as early as you possibly can, maybe even the slightest of slight lifts as you head through to this long back straight up the hill, the Kemmel, which leads of course to the right and the left out here on the circuit, which is of course the Lacom Malmedy section of road, and this is going to be where we start finding out who is going to be exactly where when it comes to these qualifying sessions. So Akinori Abalash then pretty tame at the moment, heading to this next section down the hill at Rivage. It's a tough corner, it falls away all the time as you go on through, and you just hope that you've got something available as you head into the Speaker's Corner here, or Jackie X as it is now known here at Spa-Francorchamps, which now leads of course to Pooh on the double apex left-hander. And this is about trying to just put the power down as early as you can, but running wide, always very difficult to keep the car fought in. You're always fighting against the G-forces through that sort of corner, pulling close to 3G in this sort of vehicle before the right and the left comes up in quick succession. That's the Fania chicane, which leads to the campus corner, the big right-hand bend here that just brings in third gear on the power quite nicely. 2.3 seconds, though, still off the pace. That was a really good lap time from Akinuri Abalash to put that one on pole position, but with a minute 50 on the clock, there is going to be maybe not much more that these drivers can do to find the lap times that are going to be available. Akinuri Abalash then is in complete control of things, of proceedings right now, as heading to the final chicane. Akinuri goes on the brakes and into the rights and the left. Hopefully we do see how important the finish to a lap here is. That's a lap on board then here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, then up into fourth gear. That was a 24.5, which is 2.5 seconds off of the fastest available lap time that we have seen here today in the eRacing. But at the moment, there are drivers who are trying to find those times. You've got Thomas Shireen here, who is in fourth position and heading to a winter wonderland somewhere far away through Pouhon. That's a little bit fortunate there. It used to be a very wide section of road. Nick Hill there going up into sixth position on a 2:28.8. Then going through, Yash Pigler then in fifth position. Will be trying to get that final lap in. Of course, the other Yash is in eighth position and in the pits at this stage. Same for Sai Shankar as well in seventh position. But for this time at least, it is Steve finding himself in second and Mohammed there in third, and it is Thomas in fourth. There is Yash Pigler in fifth position, trying to go through the Fania chicane. The final couple of seconds coming in qualifying at this stage, and hopefully there'll be enough. And Abhinav hasn't really set anything representative. Is down to 7 minutes on this qualifying lap time, which is by no means representative in the way that this one's going to go. As you can see, a little bit of dirt there kicked up on the outside of the campus corner. But qualifying then is now starting to come to a close, and in fact the timer does tick down then to zero. The checkered flag is out then with this racing that we've had in qualifying. Akinuri in control. We'll see if anyone can find a little bit more time on the board to break up into top 8. Renuka definitely can't there, with a big slide into the snowy grass, which is going to be impossible at the best of times to get going, and that's the proof of it. There it is, gripless out there, as Thomas Shireen and his lap time will definitely not count. Yash moving up though to third on a 2:25.2, so that's late improvements there in the qualifying session. The 2:25.2, good job then to find that improvement, but Thomas Shireen's time definitely will not count. What we are able to do though for you, ladies and gentlemen, is step aside here for a couple of moments here with us at this IR Esports session, and we'll be back with more after this. Okay. And here we are then, looking at the grid, which is starting to form up then for this first race of the evening. And here are the lights as we get ourselves ready for racing action here at the Circuit de Spa. Francorchamps 20 minutes starts up right now as we get ourselves moving forward. A field of about 12 looking to try and get themselves in towards the last horse hairpin for the very first time. There is Steve George in 4th position, trying to get things going, and there's immediately contact. 2, 3 around there. Yash Pickler, they're moving up into 2nd position, and only 3 have really got themselves through safely and cleanly up and away in the early goings. A disaster start, everybody getting caught out, it seems, in the early goings at the first corner. Cold tyres, cold track, always the big disaster that drivers want to try and avoid. But Yash Pickler up then into 2nd position. Akinuri Abalash, without any real worries at all, is in the race lead and trying to move forward with more time, more availability here to just try and find a little bit more out there at the moment. You can see how everyone has moved up and down. Yash down into 10th position, the other Yash in 2nd here, and the likes of Renuka now up into 9th place. But Yash Pickler then down the hill then through Ravage, looking to try and attack in the early stages against Akinuri Abalash then. And there is Mohammed Faisal there in 3rd position, trying to just stay with the top 3 at this stage as everyone starts moving up and down the order just a little bit behind. So they've got their work to do. Steve George, 4th position, is 7 seconds already back with Alvin Samu just behind, or Alvin Samuel, I should say, here as we keep an eye out on these drivers looking to try and have their battle in what is 4th and 5th position at this stage, moving towards the right and left of the Fania chicane. But Alvin Samuel just starts to drop back a little bit in comparison to Steve George, who is trying to get back into that after his spin. He's lucky to still actually be in 4th position, with Abhinav then trying to move on forward and gain a bit of time then in 6th place to find more in terms of the result. But already 2 minutes, 1/10 of the race already scored and clicked off then in terms of the book. So Alvin Samuel has work to do then, as there's a spinner in the background behind Yash. That is Pasai, who has gone around and had himself a moment down into 10th position now all of a sudden, which is not ideal at all in this race, down at the very, very back of the field now of the 10 that we've got running at this stage. So Yash then moving up into 8th position then, with a good start to this one after the disaster of the opening lap of this race. But more to come then as they look to try and push. And look at this, Mohammed Faisal's made a mistake, and that allows Steve George then a chance to close up and move up a position as Yash down the inside doesn't get that one working with Renuka, and both of them fall into troubles. Yash is going to jump up then into 7th position for the time being. This is also allowing Nikhil then to move up into the 8th place there. Disaster with that contact, and I think that's pushing Renuka down into the pits almost, or into the wall then, struggling to get that one going. And I think that might be a retirement that we see then in the early goings of this sort of race. So definitely not working at all. There is Renuka pulling it off to the side, and Thomas Shireen in 11th position, then just trying to get something going off of this start then after what was a very, very awkward one where big damage was put in on the horizon. 16.5 minutes then remaining as Alvin Samuel, I should say, is now moved up into 3rd position. There's your race leader, Akinuri Abalash. So both, it looks like Mohammed Faisal's had a moment somewhere with Steve George, which is why both of them are dropping down the order at this stage, which is not ideal. But Akinuri Abalash doing well. There is Steve George in 4th position. He's now lost the place to Alvin Samuel, and will be trying to get that one back as 5th and 6th behind. There is Abhinav and Mohammed Faisal have their scrap out on track. But Steve George, once again, Mohammed Faisal there in the background, has just got through then on Abhinav, then moves up into the 5th position, and will have a lot of work to do to chase down 5.5 seconds back to Steve George, who is in the 4th position right now and trying everything to just break away. And in fact, Steve George diving down the inside, trying to pick that one up. Not guaranteed just yet. Here as they drive pretty much on tenterhooks, trying to make sure they stay on the racing line, and they've done just about enough there to keep themselves in a good position. So there is Steve George jumping up into the podium places. Then third position at this moment for him, which will be very, very good news indeed, I am sure of that. So Steve George looking to try and chase back down the leading two. Yash Pickler, fastest lap of the race then, 2:23.580, and will be very, very happy with that sort of time then on the board. There is not much wrong that you can do or can say with those sorts of times, and is doing very, very well. So that's going to be all nice and dandy then for Steve George, having a very good start then to this one, as Abhinav actually just sets his fastest lap then of the race so far. So that's definitely worth keeping an eye on things at this stage, as Alvin Samuel will be definitely trying to chase back down that third position and get that back as soon as possible. 14 minutes remaining here in this race, and a bit of spare change to go alongside that as well. But up the Kemmel, looking towards the right and left of the Lakeholm section, a very, very tough section of road here. It's very easy to go too wide through that section, but it's not always the easiest to keep the cars too wide as you try and battle through the right, left, and then the right, which has maybe a little bit of a street circuit feel to it. But of course, this used to be public roads that they raced on before the mid-2000s, I do believe. The track was sold off, and now they actually have this as a full racing circuit. Here is Saimani Shankar, who is getting himself a little bit closer here to Yash in the battle for 7th and 8th position on the road, going through into Lakeholm. They're just struggling a little bit there, just having a dab on the gear lever there down on the right. Wasn't quite sure which gear to go in. Great run off the exit there. Was a little bit tentative over the anti-cut curb there, or what we could say the AstroTurf, thinking about the inside, or the outside I should say, but very much a case of both of them taking all to the outside, and that's what happens when you get caught out on the outside like that. If you're Saimani Shankar going around, damage to the front wing, you can see it skewed up now to one side, and that is now 8th position, very much secure after a big slide and spin like that. Top two still remain as they are at the moment, as they jam on the brakes into the final chicane out on circuit, up through the right, and then the big long left, both off camber corners. Very tough to get correct at the best of times, and not always the easiest job in the world that you can find yourself in. Akinori Abalash, though, has been unchallenged so far by Yash behind, not ever been in a position to worry about the overtake here at this moment, but always a smile for Akinori Abalash here, as this is going to be a case of just trying to put the times in together on the board and walk away with something maybe a little bit early, get some big work in for the race victory, and it's going to be a very important one at that as well. Akinori Abalash leads then, with Yash in second and Steve George 15 seconds down the road in third position after a number of spins for the majority of drivers in this field. Most importantly, one on the leading lap of this race, which brought a lot of trouble into play for those drivers who started out then in this sort of battle that we have been having in the early goings. But what we can say for you right now is that we are going to just have a little look at things that have been going on in the sphere of racing right now. We'll be back with more after this. And just as we come back, that's Steve George, who's going to be turning up on the scene for one driver in the wall. And that's not ideal at all. I think that's some lap traffic there that has run into some troubles. Didn't quite catch who that was. That could have been there. A little bit not ideal for Steve George going through. There is Alvin Samuel in fourth position, trying to chase down. About 2.7 seconds now, and that gap is extending all the time at this moment, as fifth and sixth look like they're having a scrap, as the timing tower says at this stage. We're almost about halfway through this one here. Mohammed Faisal here trying to get close enough to Abhinav in the battle for 5th and 6th position here. Good run out of this corner into Stavolo, then the long right-hander after the campus corner, and trying to attack then for this opportunity. Is this going to be one that's going to work? A little bit of contact there as they went tyre to tyre, able to use that runoff to satiate the ability to not go into the wall. So now this is about Mohammed Faisal now trying to find a clean way through. It's not looking ideal at the moment. We go back on board looking for the outside line here at the chicane to make this one happen, and through on Abhinav, or is it running a little bit too wide? And the opportunity goes away, too heavy over the anti-cut curve as well, down in 1st gear, trying to get some drive out of it. That's a whole second gone by that overtake not working out. So Abhinav holding on to things at the moment in the 5th position in this race. Akinuri still leading, but there goes Abhinav hard into the wall. They're just losing the back end, trying to put the power down too early. And all of a sudden, it is now into 5th position that Mohammed Faisal finds himself. Abhinav now back down into 6th position overall, which has been a very, very tough race one here that we have seen in this one in the IERC. So there's a lot to come out of this. There's a lot to battle with here, as that's Renuka around again with more troubles. I think it was Renuka that we saw spinning out then in the earlier stages of this one, but ultimately being 2 laps down, it's not been the best race, and I think that's an understatement if ever I tried to put one together. Still though, here's Thomas Shireen in 10th position and has really been closing down the gaps to those in front. It's taken almost half a minute this lap out of Nikhil in 9th position, so this should be an easy overtake then to try and work out how this one is all going to play, as this could be a very much interesting battle that we just keep an eye out. And Thomas Shireen trying to go up the hill then through Eau Rouge and Radion then to get that one all centered in, and finding that opportunity then to put something down on the board and put in some good results after being down by nearly a minute then on the opening lap. We are only 4 laps in. Yash has started to close that gap down to 1.1 seconds at the front of the field, but Thomas Shireen, it's all about now trying to move on into position here. We are looking towards the final third of this race, and every position becomes tough to battle. A little bit of sideways there from Nikhil, who misses the apex through down the hill at the Rivage section, and will now try to just get a little bit more out of this one here, as there goes Saimani Shankar for a bit of an oopsie-daisy spin, and is somehow able to gather it back up. Still has time to play with, half a minute over Nikhil, but has now lost about 8 seconds with that spin to the second of the Ashes there in 7th place. So that's not ideal at all. There is Yash in 7th position and trying to just move on with the race. That has about 15 seconds to chase to Abhinav, who is in 6th position. So a long, long haul of waiting to go along with. But at least for the time being, Yash knows that it's going to be consistent from now on out. It's going to be some island racing, so to speak, because you're on an island on your own. It's going to be very tough to see anyone from now until the end of the race. It will be effectively some hot lapping to finish out the proceedings that we have here. Race 1 at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in the snow that we have here today on Assetto Corsa. But for Yash, it's been all right at the moment here in terms of the race. Not really too much to write home about in this one. Did get involved in the lap 1 issues, but ultimately is still able to do well. Saimani Shankar is in 8th place at the moment and trying to get as much as possible out of this one, climbing the hill and looking to try and attack forward with as much availability as is there, with Nikhil in 9th place and trying to just get as much as possible out of it. Yash is there in 7th position and trying to move on forward. Your top 3 at the moment is Akinuri, Yash, and now Alvin Samuel, because Steve George has dropped back now into the 4th position and is down by about 4.5 seconds then in this race, and struggling here. There is Thomas Shireen, and he is going slow on this straight, not getting the power down. And I wonder if he has got himself into maybe a bit of engine issues or damage, or maybe even some hardware issues here with Nick Hill, who's got damage to that right side pod, which doesn't look good, and he gets it all wrong under brakes as well. So he has to try and work out how to go through and work out how every battle's going through. Abhinav then is in 6th position and is trying everything to gain a little bit more time. And it's looking like you may have a little half chance if drivers run into mistakes late on in this race. Alvin Samuel setting his fastest lap then of the race. Same for Steve George, as both of them look to try and move forward with the way that they are running in the final 5 minutes now of this race. This is Mohammed Faisal in 5th position, just quietly going about things. 22 seconds now behind Steve George, and they can just see flicking across the back of your screen the driver in 6th position right now, Abhinav, trying to close on in. There is Steve George in 4th position. He's now 4.5 seconds down then on the field, and will feel a little bit hard done by. I thought Steve George could have challenged then up a little bit further forward here if it wasn't for the spin on the opening lap. I'm sure that Akinuri and Yash would have had a little bit more challenge then to this race in the early goings. But what we are able to do for you, ladies and gentlemen, heading into the final 4 minutes, going to step aside for one moment. We'll be back with the final 4 minutes worth of racing action coming to you here from Spa-Francorchamps after this. And there is Akinuri Abalash right now trying to move forward here and gain a little bit more time. The gap is 1.5 seconds at the moment at the front of this field over Yash, who is in 2nd position here and just doing enough to keep things a little toasty into the final 3 minutes. We've got ourselves 2 laps to go here at Spa-Francorchamps, and everybody is going to be pretty much waiting with bated breath, hoping that they have the best result possible here to try and make sure that they are getting themselves further forward through this one. Akinuri Abalash then is just starting to stretch the legs though, now at 2.2 seconds over Yash Pickler, and it's looking very much like a comfortable drive at this stage, which is one which I'm sure many people will be hoping that they have at this moment in time. Alvin Samuel still in 3rd, and Steve George trying to chase that down in 4th position overall then at this stage. So still work to be done as this one continues on forward, and they try to find as much time as possible, but now you're starting to look at Yash Pickler, who I think might just be settling down for 2nd position here, 2 seconds adrift and unable to really make any real inroads. He is closing in here in the end of this opening sector, but I'm sure it's a little bit too little, too late at this moment in time, as on the brakes down the hill through Ravage. For the penultimate time in this one goes Yash Pickler, trying to find just a little bit of emphasis there. Big catch there on the oversteer. Caught too much curb on the inside. It's so easily done here around this circuit. You have to respect Spa-Francorchamps. It's one of the few circuits in the world where really you cannot take advantage of every corner, despite it being a circuit which is very wide and open and expansive for the way that you drive it. But that middle sector can always bite back for the way that you have to set up this sort of vehicle. But for Yash Pickler, at this stage, it is going to be a case of what ifs. I'm pretty sure the top 2 broke away early and they weren't seen any time after that in terms of this race. Akinuri Abalash then in control with a lap to go and a little bit more as we go and take a little look alongside and pretty much get the drone out on this one to see Akinuri Abalash making progress through to the very, very fast-flowing left-hander here of Blanchimont. No real worries at all with the downforce levels that car has at this stage. And now you start to hit the brakes and head into these next couple of corners. And now one more lap remains for Akinuri Abalash here, who is looking well. Steve George, though, is starting to close back in on Alvin Samuel. He's got the gap down to a second here with a lap and a half to go. So that could be something that does change. Thomas is trying to get himself up into 9th place against Nickel, but he is starting to struggle a little bit, only 2 seconds back. So there are a couple of battles here going on in the final stages then of this race. But Akinori Abalash then will be certainly hoping that this final lap is just going to be fraught with zero danger at this stage, not fraught with a lot of danger that many drivers behind him will certainly be hoping that there is at this stage. This has been a very quiet drive at the front of the field, one that's only been managed, so to speak. This has been an engineer's race more rather than an artist's race, but sometimes the engineer's style of race, which is stay in front and keep things working, sometimes is the way that it all needs to play out to the end. But it looks like one driver has retired. That is Yash, the other Yash, that is, out from 7th position, who will now retire from this race. We weren't able to catch it, but Mohammed Faisal then in 5th position is doing well. But Steve George trying to chase down then on this final lap and get close enough to make this one happen. He is just trying to sneak into the draft, but it's not quite there at the moment. But the middle sector has been where Steve George has been opening up and getting a little bit better than Alvin Samuel in terms of this sort of race. So can there be maybe one last twist in the tail? Steve George gets a little bit aggressive there, coming off of the exit curb then to Malmedy corner as they descend down the hill through Ravage and towards Jackie X, where the next corner always seems to come into play and be good. Nickel has been overtaken by Thomas Shireen then in the final lap as well, so that will be Thomas moving up then into 8th position here in this one as we stay on board with Steve George. That gap closing down to 0.6 of a second now, and there could be opportunities here in the final couple of moments, but any moment now we should be seeing Akinori Abalash heading through the final couple of corners as this goes on. Alvin Samuel then through Fania, doing just enough to hold things up. There is Yash Pickler in 2nd, who couldn't really do much today to hold back one Mr. Akinori Abalash on the break through the final couple of corners. And it will be Akinori Abalash going lights to flag, picking up the race victory overall then here at Spa-Francorchamps in the first race of the evening. Yash Pickler will take 2nd place then with that finish. It's a long wait for 3rd because Alvin Samuel here is side by side on the run to Blanchemont. Around the outside tries Steve George. Oh no, not like that. Contact between the two of them. George spread sideways, and then it will be Alvin Samuel who will take 3rd position then, coming over towards the start-finish line. Steve George tried it around the outside. That's why it's such a difficult corner to get right, but everyone then running themselves then towards the line. Your top 3 over the line, and everybody just taking a look at that and going, well, that's sometimes the way that races go in terms of this one. Everyone else will be plain sailing coming to the line. Akinori Abalash then picking up the win with Yash Pickler 2nd, Alvin Samuel there in 3rd. You got Steve George, Mohammed Faisal, Abhinav there in 6th position, and you got yourself Sai Shankar in 7th, Thomas Shireen in 8th, and then it will be Nickel in 9th position with Yash rounding out the top 10 here in this one with the event that we've had. Stay with us though, we're going to step aside for one moment here when it comes to IR Esports as Abhinav gets it all wrong. We'll be back with the 2nd race after this. Well, it's a complete change of car, and it's a complete change overall. Muskan then piloting around here and trying to make sure that this Monza circuit becomes the next bastion of battlegrounds as we get ourselves into, I would say, a little bit more prototype style action at this stage. 1:53.7 is the time to beat at the moment, which Muskan currently holds at this stage in this qualifying session and is doing a wonderful job of things there. Twisha Vera is there in what is 2nd position, and this women's race will be looking to try and be a very, very important battleground here, the 2nd race of 3 that we are having here tonight. So we'll see how this one plays for the women here today as Twisha Vera runs into troubles there in the Della Roggia, the 2nd battleground that we see right now. There is Twinkle in 4th place, hitting the brakes and trying to get that slowed down into the Retafilo there, the opening section as Kaizen here. She tries to get herself then struggling a little bit through Ascari. Very tough to slow a prototype down through that section as Renuka, well, we saw her earlier on in the opening race. She didn't run into a good run, but she just pulls it off on the side of the road. There's Kashagri Kara in 7th position right now, 221.7 at the moment, her time at this stage. But there is always opportunities to improve here in qualifying. But this is going to be a track which is more start and stop. It's not necessarily the flowing track in terms of you get all these high-speed section corners where you have to really test the limits of grip. You only get a couple of those, the Ascari chicane and, of course, these two Lesmo corners and Parabolica. But you've always got chances and opportunities to move forward. Banaz Rana here, she wants to try and find herself an opportunity to make this one happen here and give a good account of herself then in the opening lap. She's already down, though, a number of seconds here trying to hit the brakes, and I would say down 13-14 seconds looking into this chicane is not ideal at all. Just pushing a little bit too much there through that section. Renuka, of course, we saw pull over just a little bit earlier on trying to work things out, so this will be to gear up for a representative flying lap, and that's not what you want, especially if you've got Kashagri Kara. They're just behind trying to get by both of them, and that very nearly ended up in a whole world of tears then with that sort of run forward. So there's always going to be a little bit of heres and theres, which hopefully won't bring drivers into a world of trouble, but there will be a lot more coming up. Still another 20 minutes worth of action, a different style of car, a different vehicle, and the women will definitely want to try and put on a good showcase for all of you here today who are watching this with IR Esports. But Banaz Rana coming to the line, 40 seconds off, and there is Renuka again in the gravel. And that's not the easiest place to find out where that is, but I would assume that is Parabolica, where that gravel would find itself, as Muskan gets it all shades of wrong over the anti-cut curb, and she finds herself getting herself just spinning around, able to gather it back up, though, quite nicely. There is Twinkle, who is 4th position at the moment. This is definitely not representative then, just coming out of the pits then to gear up for a flying lap then at this moment in time. So still more to come, as that is a skipped Della Rogia chicane. Very tough to hit the brakes here in this style of vehicle. You've got to make sure that you are pretty much on it then from minute number 1 as you try and deal with this circuit. You just need patience around this Monza track. It's just outside of Milan, and it's definitely one of those circuits where you think that you've got everything that you need, as Twinkle goes off again into the gravel. Just trying to push a little bit too hard and very nearly being careened into there from behind, which could have been a whole world of disaster. Kaizen then, she's in 5th position at 203.3. At this stage, 9 seconds off of the pace, but this is a very tough moment there. The back stepping around into the gravel then, with a world of troubles in qualifying. Twisha Vera looks like the nearest challenger today to Muskan at the front of the field, so just had to step out of it there a little bit there with, I believe that was someone there running into troubles then that we saw just a little bit earlier on. But Twisha Vera trying to move forward and gain as much as possible then. 1.1 seconds to find, and we'll try to on this next flying lap. I'd probably stay at this stage, moving through the left, the right, and then the next left that is available out on circuit. So Twisha Vera trying to find as much as possible here to gain time and to gain places here. Of course, we are here with Mumbai Falcons Racing Limited with #GamerConnect, Volkswagen Motorsports India, Red Bull India, as well as the Indian eRacing Championship. Twisha Vera, you can see there, you've got the lights on the steering wheel, which indicate the rev limiter as well. So that's when you need to go and flick up to another gear and find exactly what is ideal. So Twisha Vera is going to try and make sure that the times come in then, as this is the run then on board, and then towards the Retafilo, turns 1 and 2. All about getting down the gears, and that is a case of missing your braking point by about 50 meters and then sliding through the lefts and rights. We'll move on to Twinkle then into the Della Rogia. Just a little bit tentative there through that opening section, almost turned in a bit too early and got that all slowed down in terms of gearing and positioning. So maybe more to come over the next couple of corners, just trying to find a way through to the first right-hand corner, and then the second one will follow up swiftly after that. Then the next right-hand bend, of course, comes the second of the two Lesmo corners before taking the charge up the hill. Then no DRS in these sorts of vehicles, despite the big marker boards indicating that you have that sort of indication there. But you now move yourself towards the left and the rights and the left of the Ascari chicane, which can be at the best of times difficult and at the worst of times even more so going on through. So going through the left and then the right, just missing the apex slightly here, not once but twice, can't get it turned in, and as such just runs a little bit wider and then has to get out of the way of that driver behind. So not ideal in terms of a qualifying effort there. There is Twisha Vera out there on a representative lap trying to make things happen. Kashagri Kara, she's going to try and give what she can. 2:21.7 her best at the moment. Just needs to bring a lap together. It hasn't been there at the moment, but got time. You've always got time. You've always got a place to make sure that this sort of lap comes into fruition and happens. So we'll see how this one goes with a flying lap around this place. So will this one be any improvement right now? Muskan currently still at the top on a 153.7 here in qualifying. Down on the brakes into the Retafilo. Looks pretty decent here. Trying to get that one turned in. Maybe a little bit of understeer. Trying to get that slowed down. Maybe slightly missed the braking marker. But able to get the power down now for Curva Grande. The long and blowing right-hand bend, which is flat out in this sort of car. Trying to put as much as you can down on the board and get everything all working together. So on the brakes once more goes Kashagri Kara, and into the next section, misses the braking zone as there goes Renuka again. She runs into troubles and around then at the back end of the the Retafilo chicane. They're trying to make that one all happen. Twinkle still unable to put a good lap time on the board, so this is again another case of waiting, and I'm sure no improvements on the 2:02.097 out there on the qualifying lap time. So more to come. It's a small field, a reduced field, I would say at this stage for the women racing here today, but they will be hoping that they can just get themselves into a little bit of clean air and attack in the early stages and make sure that they all get themselves what they need out of this one, and that is a good solid result. There is Kashagri Kara. She's looking good actually in terms of a lap. It doesn't look like a 2:21 by any stretch of the imagination here. Going to hit the brakes going into the final couple of corners. Still the gap 1.2 seconds here in qualifying to Muskan, who has control at this stage. She does. But now here's Kashagri Kara looking to make that progress over towards the start-finish line and see whether this one is going to be good enough. Now going on to start Flyer at this stage, and we'll see if Kashagri can get anything on her final lap run here around this Monza circuit. It's going to be a tall order. Try and find it. Just moving about a little bit is the car. Under braking, which will be just a little bit awkward, but that's a nice start. Just can't get the power down on the exit there. Was up over the anti-cut curve there, the sleeping policeman, so to speak. So it was always going to be tough. There is Twinkle as well, who is definitely not going to be able to get a lap time in, especially with running wide like that through turn number 1. So the checkered flag will be coming out then in the next couple of moments, as it looks like Kashagri has actually moved up into second on a 56.8. So that lap time definitely worked. Of course, Mushan has just jumped out of server a little bit here as the checkered flag does come out. Twisha then currently in second position now as Muskan, 1.2 seconds clear, has done very, very well. We're going to step aside for one moment. Back with more after the race, or before the race, as I should say. 7 drivers, all looking to get ready, all looking for action here at Monza. It's Muskan on the pole position. And we trying everything possible to gain that time, to gain that ability to pick up a win here in this women's race and try and showcase exactly what the women of India are able to produce then in terms of battling action. Muskan then in control at the front here will have the pole position, and everyone else behind will be desperately trying to stay in her tracks, so to speak, as we go on through. So there is Renuka, 7th position. We saw her earlier on at Spa-Francorchamps, and she didn't have the best of runs there, fell 2 laps down. Kaizen is there in 6th position then, and will be trying to push forward. Twinkle then in 5th position overall, and will be looking for maybe just a little bit of consistency after what was a hectic qualifying. Vanaz Rana in 4th position is trying to move through, with Kashagri Kara late on jumping up into 3rd place, with Twisha Vera in 2nd overall. Still though, these drivers understand what they need to do. This is Monza. This is one of the toughest circuits out there. It's so high speed, and of course that run into turn 1 always be very difficult out here today, because you hit the brakes, jam the brakes on, you hope that you've got brakes, you hope you've got opportunities, then slow up. Often you find yourself with a lap 1 incident around this sort of track, but these drivers know what they need to do. They have to be pretty much on it and available here to go out there to attack and to run their race their way. This is not going to be won by driving any other way about it. So, 6 red lights, and we will get ourselves underway for 20 minutes worth of action. Good start by Renuka there from the back. There was a little sluggish there from Twinkle from 5th place, but crucially, Muskan hasn't got the best run. Trisha Vera is through on the run in towards turn number 1, the Retafilo chicane. As they get on the brakes, Muskan comes straight back with confidence then through that section and does well. There's Kashagri as well, trying to get on through in 2nd, not quite finding it, but there is contact. Kashagri Kara then running into troubles there, as like Trisha Vera drops down to 5th. Renuka already up into 2nd position then, with her immediate charge, and off in the background there goes Twinkle at Curva Grande, just about able to keep it there, but Kashagri Kara will be wanting to try and get through, and will be wanting to try and get through very, very quickly, as Kaizen currently holding that 3rd position, doing very well then through the Della Roggia to hold things together. Contact on the exit, and that's going to check everybody up, and Kaizen drops down to 4th. Hard defense then going into the next corner against Vanaz Rana, but ultimately Muskan is clear already by 4.5 seconds at the front of this field. Renuka is there in 2nd, and it is now Vanaz Rana dropping down into 6th position. It looks like something's happened between Rana and Kaizen, and that's allowed Twinkle the opportunity to move on up forward. Twisha Vera now at the back of the pack, which is not what the plan would have been. So Renuka there in 2nd position, and trying everything to get as much as possible out of this here, and I'm sure that everyone will be hoping that they can get themselves moving on in with this run at this stage. So 20 minutes worth of action to keep ourselves entertained with. Kashagri Kara then in 3rd position. There goes Kaizen around. Not ideal. It's going to be a long, long way to turn that back safely. Vanaz Rana jumping up then into 5th position. With that sort of move, and Twisha Vera will pick up one as well. So Kaizen moves back to the back of the field, then in 7th position overall. So 1 lap already scored in. Muskan is 11 seconds clear of Kashagri, as Renuka has dropped back into 3rd. There is Twisha Vera trying to get something back of this one in 6th place. And quite honestly, Renuka will be holding on for this one, trying to get that podium. Has about 9 seconds back then to Twinkle, so time on the horizon is going to be very, very useful for the way that they want to move on forward. So what can you do? What can you find? What is there available? Go on board with Renuka here, just trying to turn the car through and make sure it's all very nice and clean for the way full start here today. So Renuka's trying to get exactly what she wants for this here. But Renuka, she is pretty much okay at this stage. started to pull out that gap to 13 seconds because this battle is going on. Van Avermaet trying to get through on Twinkle, trying to make something happen, and ultimately she's trying to make sure that this all plays out then with a clean overtake to move up into the 4th position. So can she find a way to make that one happen? And that's going to be worth keeping in the back pocket, so to speak. So wide goes Twinkle then through the second of the Lesmo corners. It's the tougher one of the two, it has to be said, because you're carrying a little bit more speed, but Van Avermaet was unable to really capitalise that as they charge up the hill towards the Ascari chicane, which is one of the very, very aggressive sections of road. Twinkle again just pushing a little bit too hard here as Van Avermaet is trying to gather it back up together, does just enough to keep the turning in and keeps it pointing in a straight line. So that's worked well, keeps well on that one. Muskan then sets the fastest lap overall. No surprises then there with this one, and you know what, it's going to be all about that, running very wide at this section of road. So Twinkle pushing wide at Parabolica. Here comes Van Avermaet. Which way do you want to go, left or right? The answer is left, to the outside of the circuit. Try and get the best run possible here towards turn number 1, and has the move done before they even reach the braking zone. But Twinkle wants to try and get this one back. Severa back through then on Kaizen, but on the brakes, it's going to be very tentative here, going through 1/4 of the race. Almost already score complete then in this one, as Severa will actually come down into the pits then to try and get some damage repaired on the vehicle. But Van Avermaet moving up then into 4th position, and this is very much turning into a case of everyone equally spreading themselves out. 11 seconds at the front for Muskan over Khashaggi. Renuka is a further 11 seconds back of that, and Van Avermaet a further 11 seconds back of that. So that just shows you where everyone is starting to find their time, or not find their time at this stage. So Renuka in 3rd place, Van Avermaet up into that 4th position, and started to fly away with things right now. Here's Khashaggi Kara in 2nd position, doing a good job to recover away back through the field. But the key here is what you can do, what you can find here in terms of these opening laps and the opening times that you've got. They're going on to the 3rd lap at the end of this one. Khashaggi Kara, they're going on to the 4th lap, I should say, at the end of this one. Khashaggi Kara having a really, really solid drive at this moment, pulling away from the driver behind, but still not able to catch the Muskan, who got exactly what everyone in this field didn't want. A gap early on as everyone clattered into each other, and then the ability to just walk away. There is your race leader right now, having a very, very solid run of things at the moment at the front of this field. So is there going to be any opportunities or mistakes to try and close that gap back down? We've seen Muskan as being probably the most level-headed of all of the female drivers that we have here in this 7-car field, and she is absolutely wonderfully driving this race at the moment from the very front. And this looks like this could be a lights to flag style drive, where every lap of the race is going to be in the book of Muskan at this moment in time. So we'll see how this one plays out then. The longer that this race does draw on, we are looking at now hopefully 12 minutes to go on the clock here in this sort of run. But at this stage, everyone's just starting to fall into their own little world at this moment, and it's a race against the track, some would say at this stage. Van Avermaet really closing in on Renuka for 3rd place. That's worth keeping in mind for the next couple of moments. So we'll see how this one plays out then, as this one continues to try and deal with all of the battles that they have got on track. But there is Khashaggi Kara in what is 2nd position, just trying to consolidate place at this stage, and pretty lonely race it would be at this stage. Renuka is being chased down, the gap now down to 2.4 seconds at the moment, as we step aside for one moment here with the Indian eRacing Championship. This women's race will continue after this. Back with racing here, and Vanaz Rana has closed the gap to third place down to 1.5 seconds then. We enter the second half of the race in the not too distant future. So, for the moment, Vanaz Rana hoping to get past Renuka, who moved up to second on the opening couple of corners, and that's a little bit aggressive, and that will be a case of which way do you want to go and get back on circuit. The answer is we'll take this very nice polystyrene chicane and try and push forward with more that's available. Renuka now with a little bit of a gap again, 6 seconds here in third place, but that will surely come back down again by Vanaz Rana, who is in fourth position at this stage and just trying to make sure that every position that can be gained is at this moment. Twinkle is currently in fifth position. She's riding on her own at the moment. She's got herself about 4.5 seconds to go and play with here compared to Kaizen, that is 6 seconds back of Vanaz Rana at this moment in time. Muskan is your race leader by 16 seconds out on circuit and doesn't really have anything to worry about. I think it's the right way to say this at this moment. So not really anything to complain about, but a mistake there from Vanaz Rana is going to allow back in Twinkle to this one. Muskan sets the fastest lap of the race though with a 54.559. But the key here is that Muskan is really starting to make some progress in terms of this battle and starting to really close on in. Kashagri is trying everything. She set her fastest lap last time by, but it's still 16 seconds adrift though, and that says all you need to know. Twinkle absolutely trying everything to get close enough, and again Vanaz Rana pushing a little bit wide, and I think this is a case of just trying to get too much out of it, and suddenly Twinkle finds herself up into the fourth position with that move, because Vanaz Rana is pushing far too much in this race and will definitely want more out of this one, but it's just not seemingly happening at this stage. There is your race leader, Muskan. That is lap traffic getting out of the way. That is Kaizen then pulling well off to the right-hand side, or the left-hand side as she was driving there to make sure that she got out of the way. So now a lap down. Kaizen's got work to do if she is going to get anything out of this one, and I think there is some significant damage, which is why there are the issues. Vanaz Rana still there in fifth place, wants to get through Twinkle, get back into fourth and back into this race. Has just lost out a little bit then in the last couple of laps, wants a little bit more on the horizon to go and make something happen. But the reality of the situation is that Twinkle here is doing pretty much exactly what's needed. She is just keeping the car on the island, just making sure that she is driving a safe race. And at this stage, it might just be a case where we see Vanaz Rana try and pull on through and get that fourth position back once again. They are looking like, though, with the final 8 minutes remaining in this race, that they have to be careful about potentially being lapped here in this one by Muskan, who is absolutely flying. There is Twinkle we see on screen, brought to you here with the Red Bull India sponsorship, the Mumbai Falcons sponsorship on the car, as well as this attack does continue and will want to be about trying to find all of the opportunities that are available on the brakes. Grabbing a little bit of grass on entry there is not going to be too helpful for the tyres, but for Twinkle it's enough at the moment just to remain ahead. She is in what is fourth position, 1 second the gap to behind, and now you start thinking end game, can you get any places? Renuka's dropped 40 seconds back to Kashagri in what is second position, with Muskan 17 seconds down the road as your race leader at the moment. So Twinkle with work to do, try and hold back behind, but it looks like that gap has increased here. 2.5 seconds, a mistake by Vanaz Rana will definitely make that a reality. So Vanaz Rana in what is fifth position will definitely want to try and find as much time as possible here on the brakes and into the right and the left then of the Retafilo. They come along again. Rana making sure that the car is fully slowed down before turning. But there is your race leader here, Muskan, and already on that back straight looking towards the Parabolica corner, absolutely flying about at this moment in time with the way that this race is going for her. And she knows better than anybody else. This has been a dominating drive, 18 seconds. She's been pulling away at over a second a minute around this track so far, and it is really, really impressive to see here with about 6.5 minutes to go just how well she's driving. Khashaggi Kara, nothing more that you can do here. Second position, definitely has looked second quickest out there on track so far tonight, but not really much more that you can say or do about this when you got Muskan in the form that she is in at this stage, with Renuka in third. Actually, started to be closed down now by Twinkle. That gap coming down to 10.5 seconds out on track with the final 6 minutes remaining here in this race. So nothing guaranteed just yet, but it's looking processional here for first and second position overall. But Renuka, Twinkle and Vanaz Rana will be all trying to find that pace and trying to find that time on top of that, as well as Kara moves through the Curva Grande towards the Della Roggia. There is Renuka in third position right now, and the battle behind fourth and fifth is really starting to heat up, and you'll see that in the background in a moment, because Twinkle here, she's under a lot of pressure. In the toe goes Vanaz Rana, who actually backs out of it there on the front straight. Doesn't want to go attacking too early here into this run, and I think we'll be thinking about, okay, there's maybe more than that, but on the brakes they go. Twinkle, I think, has got enough. Oh, just about gets a wiggle trying to turn the car into the corner. She's able to hold it, but now attack the exit out of the corner. Might be the time where Vanaz Rana starts to power in, starts to attack, and she looks to the inside, and there's the contact. Rana gets put into the fence, but able to keep the power down. Twinkle runs wide, and that is going to be the position then for Vanaz Rana up into fourth position without too much to say more about that. A lot of contact with that overtake was not part of the agenda for both, as Twinkle does run wide, and Rana spins into Twinkle, who had gone off the circuit in avoidance and now finds herself pretty much stranded with that sort of run. It's all started to kick off now here in this eRacing women's race. We'll be back with the final 4 minutes after this. Three and a half minutes remaining then for Muskan in her race to domination at this stage. 22 seconds down the road from Khashaggi Kara, and she is absolutely motoring still as she flicks down into second gear and looks to try and go through these rights and lefts with a lot of poise and a lot of ability here to really make the times happen. You can see those drivers behind, second, third, fourth and fifth. The issues between Twinkle and Vanaz Rana. Rana's had another mistake and has now dropped back into fifth position again. Pretty much gifted Renuka here the third position overall. No surprises then with that one, but this now all becomes a case of, can you find what is needed and can you do everything possible to move forward and to get the result that is very much there. Fastest lap though, 1:53.8 that last time by. You cannot argue with that level of great running at this stage. So now what can you do at this moment in time? Can you go out there and get the big result that I'm sure that everyone will be looking at home and wherever they are around the world and hoping you can get? 2 minutes 15 seconds remaining in this race, and Muskan, she is absolutely motoring here at this stage without any real worries at all with the way that this race is going. Through the left and the right then of the Della Roggia, there are 2 laps to go in Muskan's race, and can't really argue too much about the way she has conducted herself over this race. Khashaggi Kara is there in second position, but there's not really anything that she could have done about this race. She was involved in the early instance, she got herself through and up into second, and then all of a sudden, Muskan decided she wanted to race the second a lap quicker over the run of this race. So it certainly has worked out for Khashoggi over the course of this one today. But second position, definitely nothing to shake a stick at. This is still going to be a mightily good run overall. There is Renuka in third. A long, long wait back it will be for Renuka to finish in third position after the next minute and 10 seconds plus the final lap. So a lot of time to sit and contemplate or almost get run up from behind, which is not ideal. It's definitely not what Renuka wants here in the late stages of this race. So more to come as Twinkle and Vanaz Rana. It looks like Vanaz Rana is back through again and up into what is going to be fourth place. That's a very, very astute overtake then by Vanaz Rana, and will be just hoping to break away. Is running too deep, and once more they come together with a bit of contact and pushing through the corner. I'm not sure Twinkle's very happy here with Vanaz Rana. I think the two of them will be having fisticuffs maybe after this sort of race. All four tyres go in the grass though from Twinkle, trying to leave enough room there for Vanaz Rana. You could have parked a double-decker bus in that sort of gap. But again, a battle will be coming down to this next section as on the brakes they go. Oh, Twinkle's far too deep again. And both of them, in fact, will skip the chicane and will both have to slow down, serve their penalty, get back out racing again. And Vanaz Rana serves it the most effectively and will jump on through. And if I'm not mistaken here, that is Muskan on the final lap, finding a way through and lapping all bar second and third position here in this race for what has been a truly, truly dominant display from her over the course of this one. Has been running at a pace where nobody else has been even remotely close to getting to her right now. But Muskan is doing exactly what's needed with a lot of poise and a lot of ability showcased here today. Through the Ascari chicane she goes, and now just one final corner will await her after this, and that is the famous Parabolica right-hand corner. And after going through this, that will be the lap that we see and the race that we see from Muskan, who has absolutely walked away with everything and then some. Keep an eye out on her for the future, because she has shown that she's got all of the traits needed to pick up a display like this. 26 seconds down the road, Muskan picks up the win here in eRacing with that sort of dominant display, which many will keep an eye out on in for the future. It will be a wait for Khashoggi Kara in second position overall, and this is going to be a very important second place, especially with what has happened with everyone else behind then in this battleground that we have seen. So how is this one going to play out then for the likes of Renuka and co, with more races on the horizon? Ultimately though, Khashoggi Kara coming home in second. Renuka will come home to finish third as the last finisher on the leading lap. But we're going to step aside here, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back with the third and final race of the night after this. Here at the wonderful Silverstone circuit here. It's a classic layout Are we in for a classic race as it starts right now? Raghav Budaraja got an absolutely storming start there off of the front as everyone looks to funnel through. It's already too wide here in the middle as they go in towards Cox for the very first time, and it looks like they're all nicely and clean. That's Mohammed Ibrahim going to Narnia and back, I do believe that is. Then struggling to get it all sorted together. He gets it back, but that would have been a little bit of a scary moment off the start. They're still too wide to go on through. I think that's Prithvi gaining a place there, moving on through, and that's Gophadia slow. I do believe that is, and that's Prithvi off the circuit, so that's not exactly what's needed. Well, someone's off the circuit at least. Here going on through, and someone's been to the background. Bang! Very aggressive start down the hill, through bridge, side by side. Oh no! Oh no! 3 off. 3 straight off. Prithvi is one of them. And I believe the others who got caught in that were Narajan Kumar, Mr. Consistency, and I believe that's B. Cavan as well getting caught involved. So 3 drivers all running into troubles at the bridge, and a lot of drivers out already. Sai Sanjay, B. Cavan, both out, missing tyres. They'll be taking tows and getting themselves a chance to go back through. 1 lap already being anyway. Raghav Budaraja leads this event, but Mohammed Ibrahim is going to be chasing. The gap is 4 seconds at the moment. At the front, oh no, this was Vijay Raj and someone upside down as well. This is the moment it happened. Goes around there at Luffield, trying to get the car going. Who has run into him at that moment in time? It didn't look good at all. I think it's Swaraj Yadav, it is, who has gone up and over the top of Vishwash Vijay Raj, just about pointing cleanly, then through, and this is going to be awkward. There's contact. They go on through. Round goes Medarata, and he will take with him one Sai Saran, who was looking to be far too aggressive through Stowe Corner, and that was always going to end in an accident like that. The back unsettled, no grip left, and bang! Into the side, both Metarata and Saul across the straight, trying to work it out, but it won't matter for Mohammed Ibrahim. He's going the long way round, trying to hold this. Has he got enough drive off of the exit? Oh, you bet he has. Mohammed Ibrahim around the outside of Raghav Budaraja to take the race lead away, and that will be the moment where I doubt that he will be caught. Got a nose at the inside, and they'll have to go too wide through Gott. Oh, there's contact. He's bumped him off. Ryden Samravel off into the outskirts then of Gott's corner. Rejoins on circuit and the inside. Oh, that's brave. That was late and brave from Ryden Samravel, and he absolutely nails the move. He does run a little bit too deep though, and this is going to make things a little bit awkward, but the move is comfortably made here, averting for Mohammed Ibrahim. Every time he's won the race on Saturday, he's gone from 12th to win the race on Sunday. It's his 8th win of the season, and Mohammed Ibrahim is romping towards the title. Raghav Budaraja will be happy. It will be 2nd position for him, and Amit Kuti can only manage 3rd. He got held up a lot by Karan Kolchik. Starting grid then for this one is going to be a very interesting battle. There is the grid. Mohammed Ibrahim and Sai Sanjay on the front, Amit Kuti and Sai Saran. Narajan Kumar on a 4 qualifying for Sai Prithvi. Starting back there in 6th place. Jack Gophadia and Raghav Budaraja. They can the top 8 around this place. No Warrior, Samuel, Medarata, Amit Kuti and Kolchik, Vijay Raj, and making up 16 as we get ourselves underway. To be a pretty good jump from Sai and Sanjay. Mohammed Ibrahim though got the whole shot in with turn number 1 one time. Ibrahim, that's where he wants to be. That's the one to see. Sanjay there in 2nd position. Wide goes the ball trying to gather back up again. Under pressure now here for 3rd place. Go down the long and stretch. Straight in. Narajan Kumar fights it out in 6th place as well. Down inside of Gophadia. Make sure that he's position right now. Somebody goes off the circuit, someone's gone far off the circuit. There's a big bit of contact in the background there. Who on earth was that around himself? He's a whole heap of trouble. Someone's going through the Mascara and Hosted. I think it was right at Samaravel. 6th with the emphasis went off. There's a spinner in the background as well. As that is both Raghav Budaraja and the Warrior. And it's going to off as well. That's the back of the back. So Budaraja loses it trying to gather the car back up on circuit. Sai Prithvi though in 6th, trying to get through way that he would want to right now. Side Frisbee knows he needs to stuff back. Saran is making mistakes. And those behind Golia now is going to be a simply stuck for Karen Kochik, who's going to go to the inside here to try and pick up this move. Right now, Guidaraj is not close enough to really capitalise. And on the inside, what can Dini and Golia do to defend on the outside? Hard to the pit wall, and Frisbee will have to go the long way round to make this one happen. Brilliant defence there by Saeed Saran, using the road, taking the line away from Saeed Frisbee, and ultimately choking him out of the position effectively. And now the Rajan Kumar wants it. He's not going to give up on a 40 either. So this battle to go on through. This one, and Ibrahim won't mind. He's going to pick up the race victory here and get this 7th season. It's going to be Sunday who holds off second and third. And it starts right now. A very good start off at the front then as drivers will start to try and funnel and find themselves a way through. They go through the small kick, trying to get the power down. They'll all funnel onto the apron here, trying to get the most narrowest line as close to that inside wall as they possibly can. They now start to fan out single file towards turn number 2 and hoping that they've got what it takes. Here, big accident, huge accident. Someone forgot to hit the brakes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars involved. The track is jammed in the middle here as they go on through, and surely a safety car must be called for that. That was a huge accident, all going wrong, and what's the big worry about oval racing as they go on through. You can see it right now. Look how many vehicles got caught up in all of this then as they went on through. I count 4, I count 5, I count 6 drivers all getting caught up in all of that at the front of the championship here of the junior category event. Everyone down low. One driver just coming out of the pits right now is going to intervene through all of this, but Aguilar gets through without any real worries at all. And around the outside, you don't often see them, and it was well done. It turned to the inside for the next part of the corner, and that was comfortably done. Very good at finding them through the right-hand bend and over towards 4. Here's Nambi Chowdhury trying to get in on the action as well, trying to get close enough to make a move through the S's section. That'll be a slowdown penalty there. It is really disadvantaged here, but can take the later braking line into the corner and has just zoomed on by around the outside. A little Shambada, who has dropped back down to 8. Oh, 8 plays, big spin, contact most likely with that. Driver likes to flag for Garvit Aguilar. Second will be going to Panchal and Ted Patel will be the one picking up the podium. So Janat Panchal there having a very good run. There is Jahan Noble in 4th. Race number 3. And we head ourselves to another Italian track, but this time the Italian track that we find ourselves at is Imola. It's a wonderful circuit full of brilliant battling that we've got Abimanyu Menon, currently the fastest driver of them all at the moment on a 1:46.591. That's a 47, so no improvements there, as there is just 10 minutes remaining then of qualifying. There is Akinuri Abalash trying to gain that time back and get himself closer enough. Of course, we saw him win at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in the opening race that we've had today, but Akinuri Abalash will be certainly hoping that there is going to be time on the board where he can definitely move forward and gain a little bit more out of it there. 47.2 does not improve over that lap, but this is a tough track to try and find time at here. This very, very difficult Imola circuit. The Tamburello chicane here, the left, right, and the left as well. And of course, there's a memorial down over to the left with the legendary Ayrton Senna. But here with IR Esports, this is all about now a good effort, and they need a good effort to try and get themselves over the line and happy and making sure that they are scoring the way that they know they are. Alvin Samuel is 3rd at the moment with one of the Yashes in 4th, and then you've got Steve George in 5th position at this moment in time. So work then still to be done in this qualifying session, but every time on the board definitely does matter, and does matter to a huge matter of fact. So we'll see how this one all plays out then once everyone finds themselves in the right possible position. But Akinori Abalash then heading through the right then at Aqua Minerale and back up the hill once again to look to attack here as we go on board and have a little look at this Variante Alta. Used to be a lot more aggressive and difficult, but now it's a slow, lumbering chicane, which really does require you to have patience in terms of putting on the power. So if that all plays out the way that many people expect it to, then this might just be where you start getting those big results in on the board. So Akinori Abalash is trying everything possible to move forward, to gain that time, and you can see the clock ticking down on the bottom of your screen. Definitely wants to get into a 46.5 if it's possible, and he gets himself another 47.4. So it's clear that the tyres aren't working for him at the moment, and he's not finding enough time to go out there and make something happen. Worth taking an eye out as well on some of the other drivers here today. Alvin Samuel is looking to try and improve on times. 47.6 at the moment is only good enough for third position right now, and there'll certainly be more that Alvin Samuel would definitely want out of this race, but got to make it happen in qualifying. Mohammed Faisal is in 8th position right now, and we'll just have to get out of the way then of one driver who definitely wants to try and get through. One of the difficulties around this sort of series, as Joshua Ashish here just cuts the chicane at the Variante Alta, is that everyone's driving the same coloured car, which means it's very difficult to work out who is who when it comes to incident or accident when it comes to around these battles. So we'll see how this works. This is Yash at the moment trying to find some time and find some improvements out here. Didn't have the best of runs, of course. A retirement coming the end of the race at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. But here at Imola, the Autodromo Nazionale, Enzo Edino Ferrari, this might be one where it just gets a little bit more interesting the more that things go on. But Yash looks like this time's going to be a little bit slower than what's needed. Mohammed Faisal moves into a 51.3, which is good enough for 6th place, but this is going to be slower than that, mark my words. 7th position, a 1:53.884. So that's not ideal, but there's still time. There's still 6 minutes to go out there and find the time, find the position that is very much needed as things go on. So we'll see how this one all works out. But this is going to be a good battleground that I'm sure people are going to be looking for. So is this going to be one where Steve George maybe comes into the fray and showcases the ability and showcases what's needed? It's a question mark that I'm sure some will be looking at, but now it might be where we need to go through. We're going to step aside for one moment, though. We'll be back with more after this. Back here with some more qualifying action. Steve George then is in 5th position and wants to try and move up a bit more. He's having to battle actually through the end of his lap, which is not ideal. Goes down the inside and picks that one off. But now he's got to know here in the backstage of the qualifying, he just needs to find that opportunity here to move forward, to gain those times, and he will be going on to a flying lap here with this one. Yash Pickler hasn't set a time as of yet. He is down the order. Well, actually, he's in 4th position. apologies for that, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that you did just lose my voice for a few bits of time there, but we are back, and we are back looking at everything right now and seeing how everything is all starting to form here in terms of this sort of race. Akinori Abalash then is doing a good job at this stage, trying to get himself forward up into first position if he can, but he's in second right now, and that time, of course, will not count, and he will be dropping way down the order then as he tries to get some more time there. So this lap won't work. Abimanyu Manon, though, is currently the driver who's fastest. 146.591, 4/10 of a second clear at the moment. Hasn't had the best of seasons in the Volkswagen Virtual Racing Championship, so would be wanting to try and pull that back, but at least for the time being, it's not quite happening at this stage. Or it is happening here, but it's not quite in other championships. So maybe this will be a good confidence booster for Abimanyu Manon here in the final minute or so of qualifying. We'll see how this one all plays out, as it will be down on the brakes into the Ravazza corners here. These two left-hand bends, and I wouldn't mind staying in one of those houses right there on the right-hand side. But power on the exit. Time to attack and time to gear up for another lap. 50 seconds to go. So it's going to be about finding all of that time and finding that opportunity to move forward and gain here with everything that is plausible and possible. But Abimanyu Manon will go on to that final lap. Alvin Samuel will not be able to get any more laps done on the board. Is down there in third position, down on the lane. Everyone else, though, will be trying, as Akinori Abalash is definitely one to try and search. So is Yash Pickler, who is trying to get himself around, but I think he's going to be out of time to find any more shades of improvement there. Steve George, the same, also out there on track, hoping that there is some level of improvement, as well as Danny Thomas, who is going to be trying to get as much as possible here to move up the field and improve from sixth position. First time we've seen him. Checkered flag, though, does come out, though, in terms of this session. He's already 11 seconds down here at the second sector. So I'm going to be shocked, mildly shocked, if we see any real improvements here coming to the start-finish line as everyone tries to get going through. Of course, Akinori did actually improve, but he's still 2/10 down. Yash jumps up then into third position. Can be happy with that one. But, ladies and gentlemen, we got ourselves qualifying pretty much all but sorted. We're going to step aside for a moment. We'll be back with race action after this. Grid form then, here at Imola for the final race of the night in the Indian eRacing Championship. It's all about big battlegrounds here as Abhimanyu Menon has the pole position against the winner last time out. You can see him testing his steering there on the inside of the grid here as he gets himself ready. There is the Moto chicane just in front of you, and the former Variante Bassa chicane back when the old layout did flick over to the right and then did the big left-right over to the start-finish line. But 6 red lights will be coming up on your screen, and racing action then will come fully on into play right now. Let's get ourselves ready then here at Imola, and we are racing for 20 more minutes. Abhimanyu Menon gets an okay start, but it's Abhilash who gets an even better one, it seems, from the front row of the grid, looking to attack, looking to battle, looking to try and get that one moving on forward. There's already dramas in the background. Someone's off into the wall, but crucially, it is Akinuri Abhilash who leads. Yash has jumped up into second. Abhimanyu Menon has not had the best start, dropping down 2 positions then in the opening couple of corners on this race. It was the other Yash that ran into troubles then and is down at the back with that sort of spin. Someone off in the gravel as well. Oh, and someone heavily into the wall there over in the background. I think that's Mohammed Faisal there who ran into troubles there going through, and that's more contact there from Alvin Samuel, who was the other driver off and now out of the race with that level of contact. So that's not ideal. Yash Pickler, though, under pressure from Abhimanyu Menon, looking to the inside at Piratella. Not a traditional place to go and make a move, and there's contact between the pair of them, and both of them are going to go spearing across the circuit, trying to gather it back up again. Yash Pickler will now drop back down into 4th position. How much damage is on the car, I do not know at this stage, but it's really been a little too much. Abhinav's gone a little bit too deep there at the Variante, not the Variante Alta, sorry, the Aqua Minerale, and drops down now into 4th position, but it is Akinuri Abhilash out in front, 2.3 seconds over Steve George in second, and it is Yash there in 3rd place overall. It's pretty hectic, has to be said, for a start, but there is more on the horizon, and how this is going to play out, well, that's going to be another point entirely. But Yash Pickler wants to find that time and that ability to go out there and make some overtakes. Danny Thomas up into 5th position then from the opening laps worth of proceedings. There should be around 11 laps worth of racing action that we'll be keeping an eye out on here today. So this should be all good. But give me a second here, ladies and gentlemen. Just wondering here if you can hear me right now. I was just having a couple of technical issues here, ladies and gentlemen. Do apologise for that here at this stage, but at this moment in time, hopefully we will be in a much better position here to go on forward and find out how things are playing out here at this stage. So hopefully we're all going to be in a really good position here to move forward and make things happen. Do apologise here, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a very hectic start to this race. I think it's the right way to say things at the moment as we continue on with the racing action that we have. Mohammed Faisal fighting out now for 9th place. There's someone around in the background there as Rajesh wants, I think it was Rajesh actually, who was around there and trying to get through. But at this stage anyway, there's Joshua Ashish in 6th place and trying to move up the field and get exactly what's needed here in this sort of run. But, you know, this is going to be a tall order, a tough challenge to try and pick up these points and pick up these results in these early stages. Faisal trying to recover through. He's got to get past Yash and the Abhinav, who's gone wide there at the Variante Alta, and that's a position made by Mohammed and made pretty comfortably on top of that as well. Steve George in 2nd position, trying to chase down Akinuri Abhilash, who leads this event right now, with Yash in 3rd and Danny in 4th. Abhimanyu all the way back down now into 5th position overall. Steve George, 147.661, sets the fastest lap then of the race. So that's something in the back pocket he can be very, very happy with at this stage. But Abhimanyu Menon definitely wants in, definitely wants to try and gain that time and gain those places back again. It's not been good. Abhinav dives down into the pits then with damage, it seems. So we are down to 9 runners, it seems, for the moment at least, but not going to be close enough there through the Villeneuve chicane. Then you've got Tozer, of course, this hairpin. Maybe you look down on the inside and try and pick this one up, but no, not just yet, as Abhimanyu Menon finds out why Tozer is a very difficult corner, because you can spin it up that easily and run into that level of trouble. So that is the positions then changing out then from that. Danny Thomas up into 4th position, Joshua Ashish up into 5th, and now Mohammed Faisal is into 6th position because Abhimanyu Menon has dropped a whole heap of time. Yash Pickler then is in 3rd position, and he'll be hoping that he can stay in 3rd position for the longest time. He's pulling away from Danny Thomas behind, and here is Abhimanyu Menon in 7th position, trying to get through then on Mohammed Faisal, and he is not having anything his own way today. Pole position was nice, but he hasn't been able to convert so far over the course of this race, which really does seem to hurt in terms of this run moving forward. And actually off the track there goes Mohammed Faisal, and Abhimanyu Menon gets a freebie, and so will the other Yash, who will move up into 7th position then to try and pick things up. So Mohammed Faisal drops down now into 8th, Yash up into 7th position with that run, and just having a few technical issues there going through that corner, able to get the car turned in, but now does so in 7th position at this moment in time. So we'll see how that one all plays out. Abhimanyu Menon now up into 6th position in this race as things look to settle down a little bit at the front. 1.4 seconds for Akinuri Abalash, but Abhimanyu Menon trying to recover his way back through. Takes a very aggressive line there through Tabarello, and in fact, he even does tap the back there of Joshua Ashish, who's maybe dawdling a little bit there on the apex, but this is defended all the way through. Abhimanyu Menon not happy about that, as he has to back well out of it then, going into the Villeneuve chicane, and I'm sure that Abhimanyu wants in and wants places and wants them quickly and doesn't want mistakes or damage or anything else like that. Picks up the run then on the inside coming out of the corner and moves up then into 5th position as the recovery continues here at this stage for Abhimanyu Menon. You've got, of course, likes of Yash, Steve and Akinuri up in front, as well as Danny, which will be the next catch, but that's 10 seconds go and find, which will be very, very tough here, as Yash Pickler here in 3rd place has a bit of traffic to deal with here, which will not be ideal, but straight through, no worries at all. Easy pickings then to make that one happen. But Alvin Samuel back out on track and racing again in 10th place, as looks like Joshua Ashish has run into some troubles and is dropping down the order now to 8th position. Not ideal for him, as Mohammed will pick up a place, as well as Yash as well. So they will both gain some places, and will gain some places quite nicely, I think you can say, on top of that also. So there's that to contend with and deal with in the not too distant future. But Yash Pickler trying to do everything possible here to close down the gap. He's got 2.5 seconds here to Steve George in what is 2nd place. And hopefully it's going to be one where it all plays out then for him at this stage. There's Danny Thomas in 4th place. We're going to step aside for one moment. Back with more after this. Okay. 11.5 minutes to go then, and your race leader is Akinuri Abalash, but he has lost half a second on this lap. That brings Steve George back into range then in this sort of race. We saw at Spa-Francorchamps how Steve George had the ability to go out there and attack and get closer, but now all of a sudden it's looking more likely and more likely that Steve George wants to be a threat and a potential threat in this one, but a mistake like that will not be helpful in terms of this sort of run. He now drops back to 1.8 seconds there, so a really costly mistake going through the second Ravazza corner, the final corner out here on track. So more to happen, more to be done at this stage, but Akinori Abalash is just doing enough, keeping consistent. Nobody's going to catch him if he stays at this level of consistency in this sort on the board, and is doing pretty much what is needed of him at this stage, which is finding time, finding gaps, and doing exactly what is needed. So Akinori Abalash, work to do to try and continue to extend that gap as drives behind, like Mohammed Faisal, set their best time of the race so far. But now you start thinking about this properly here. There is Mohammed Faisal in 6th position, and Yash comes into the pits then behind him in 7th place. So clearly something bothering him that allows Joshua Ashish to move up then into the 6th place and do exactly what is needed. So more to happen, more to be done in this one, but Gap's still just starting to eke out a little bit, and it looks like Yash, for the second time in 2 races, does not finish this race, so it does not work out for him the way that he would want to. He is out, and that will allow Rajesh Shambora to move up to 8th place then, and that will make things quite happy for him. Picking up an extra position, you can't really argue too much against that. But there is more coming up for these drivers. They know what they need to do, and they've got to really attack the second half of the race. 9 minutes remaining. Steve George is 1.6 seconds back at this stage as he tries to chase down. There is Alvin Samuel, and Yash Pickler has decided he doesn't want to be sitting around and waiting. That 47.379 is the fastest lap of the race. It brings his gap to Steve George down to just 2 seconds here in this one, and he will definitely want to get through. There is Abhinav, who is there in 11th place, is now a lap down in this race, because that is Abimanyu Manon in 5th, looking to go on by. It looks like something may have happened to our 4th place driver here in this one, so that's worth keeping in mind. But Abhinav doing well, 10th position. Of course, our graphic here, our timing tower, does split and separate just a little bit, but Abhinav in 10th. Work to be done, though, in terms of this race. 10th place, 42 seconds behind the nearest competitor. This is going to be just a case of driving it around, getting a little bit more feel for the car, and maybe going out and attacking the later stages of this race, and maybe finding a little something, which I think it would be quite nice in this final race of the night, trying to work out something. There is Jambora in 9th position. Of course, Danny Thomas finds himself in the 4th place right now, but Steve George, it's got that gap down under a second again, and that's going to be a little bit concerning here for Akinori here as he tries to get himself forward. Akinori Abalash is being really pegged back in here with that draft coming into the hands of Steve George, who jams on the brakes and gets the mistake he wants. Oh, hello. Steve George picks up the race lead. Akinori Abalash, he only has himself to blame for that sort of mistake, and now he'll have Yash Pickler just behind, wanting to get through, and in fact will do here around the outside. But Abalash is not going to give this one up. He's going to hold that natural line, the quicker line around this front stretch, which does effectively bend over a little bit like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. But now you start seeing how this one's going to go. On the brakes into the opening couple of corners, no dice there for Yash Pickler as Akinori Abalash holds on to second place. Now he's got work to do. Get back then to Steve George, and Steve George will be looking behind as Abimanyu Manon sets the fastest lap of the race so far. So he's got every reason to be excited and happy here that he is closing down in 4th position. But this second and third battle here, Yash is still under that pressure, or putting on that pressure, I should say. Akinori Abalash will be hoping he can look forward, but he can't when you've got Yash Pickler trying to dive every which way here at the next corner here at Piratella. It's not going to work here. That's not a corner you go and overtake it traditionally. So if you can get it done there, it's bonus credits, but you don't get bonus credits for that. Looking down the inside here at Aqua Minerale, Yash Pickler is just trying to make an overtake. He's not focused on where he needs to make the right place to make the overtake, and that's very key in this sort of run, because with 6 minutes remaining on the clock, got to be patient here. You've got to wait for a clear-cut chance. You only do those sorts of moves when you know But the final lap is on the horizon, and it is pretty soon for Steve George, who leads this event outright and wants to continue to lead this event from now to the end. The top three split by 2.5 seconds here in this one as George tries everything here. Look at Yash again. He brings the gap to 2/10 and he wants to try and get a run, and he's got himself a much better positioning here, ever so slightly further back than he would have done otherwise, being side by side like he was a lap ago. So he's got the opportunity to think about this overtake, and he'll be looking at it going, well, do I want inside? Do I want outside? What are you going to give me to try and make it happen? It's going to have to be outside, trying to make this happen at Tamburello, and he jams on the brakes, sweeps around the outside, and Akinori Abalash now drops back into third position. I want to look back at Abimanyu now, because this will be on for fourth place as well in this sort of race. So Akinori Abalash falls back into third, and I think Abimanyu might just make a move into fourth, trying to recover even further. And for the moment, we do see there on the timing tower, it is side by side, but Abimanyu and also Danny Thomas run into troubles, and they get back going on track again. And I think Abimanyu wants to put the power down quickly here and will take the place. So Danny Thomas lets him have it in the end, but they have lost a lot of time. And it'll be no better than third, it seems, here for Abimanyu Manon. Or no better than fourth, sorry, I should say, for Abimanyu Manon in this race. We'll step aside for the final time, though, in this race tonight. We'll be back with the end of this race after this. 3 minutes to go, side by side. Akinori Abalash and Yash Pickler, they're racing each other out of the race win here as Abalash just about gets back down the inside then at Tamburello and takes the place away once more. But now it's 3 seconds here to Steve in what is going to be the first position in this race. So now you start wondering here how this is going to go. No, we're still here, ladies and gentlemen. But still, 3 minutes to work it out. 3 minutes to find that one more position that is needed. Akinori and Yash are going to be battling it out for the next 2 laps here, trying to figure it out. And again, it's going to be another case where it might just be finding that position and finding so very, very swiftly. Yash Pickler trying to look down the inside, but again, can't quite find exactly what is needed. So down the hill, we go on board Aqua Minerale here and trying to turn and shift and get on the power as quickly as possible. It's very difficult in this sort of vehicles to try and shift your way down and make sure those places are taken. But Yash Pickler, he wants it, he needs it, but he's just to fall away a little bit from Abalash there just in front. So it's going to be a lot of hurt, I think, in his final couple of laps to try and figure this one out. I believe we will have 1 lap to go when they cross the line, depending on time. And mistake there as going off the circuit. I believe that was Steve George, the race leader potentially there, who'd gone and made that mistake. So not ideal at all. Sorry, no, that was lap traffic there. My mistake, ladies and gentlemen, there. Traffic getting very much out of the way, and the graphic did change slightly. Akinori Abalash sets his fastest lap of the race, though, trying to pull away. But here comes Yash again on the outside. Every single lap, it happens. And they trade, and the positions there see one Mr. Yash Pickler up in second one more time. So it works out. It works very, very well. Of course, there's not really much you can do in fourth on backwards. They're all split out in their positions. Abimanyu fourth, Danny Thomas fifth, Mohammed Faisal in sixth, Joshua Sheesh seventh, Alvin Samuel in eighth, and Abhinav in ninth, with everyone else out of the race. But Yash Pickler, he wants in. He wants to get himself up and holding on to that second position. They've got a minute left on the clock, but Akinori Abalash is not letting this one go at all around this section, trying to attack and trying to break away here in the final stages as this one all closes in inside of this run. So up the hill they come along once again, trying to find any which way to go and make that move. Will it be to the left or to the right? But again, Akinori Abalash at 0.3 of a second back will not be finding it. For Steve, though, he's got himself 30 seconds left on the clock. Great run out of the corner, but it looks like we may be going one more lap after this. Look at Abalash, tire to tire almost, as they go down the hill now towards the Ravazza corners. And on the brakes once more, it's going to be a tall order here to get this one finished on this lap. I think we're going one more after this, as Akinori Abalash knows that that clock is just ticking for him a little bit. There is Steve George as he makes progress to the line. It's going to be close on this line, but I think the checker flag does come out with Steve George picking up the victory. It'll be a drag race over the line, and Yash Pickler has just lost out then to Akinori Abalash then as they get themselves over. The checker flag did come out, but ultimately it will be Abimanyu Manon who will come home with 4th position, and Danny Thomas there in 5th place. So Abimanyu Manon coming to the line will be 4th place as he comes across and finishes very tight with the checkered flag. It just came out there for Akinori Abalash. Yash couldn't have asked for the line to be maybe 200 meters back across, given the best run. So confirmation, Steve George picking up the race win here at Imola to finish off proceedings for the evening. Well, a wonderful job of racing then by all of these drivers. Mohammed Faisal coming to the line then in 6th, and we'll just wait for Joshua Ashish, who will come across the line in 7th place. But in terms of the work that's been done by the Mumbai Falcons Racing Limited, from hashtag Game Connect, VW Motorsport India, and of course the Indian eRacing Championship, it's been a wonderful, wonderful bit of battling that we have seen all up through. Steve George and Akinori, they're getting race victories here today, one at Spa, and of course the one that we've just seen at Imola. But we've got more on the horizon coming up, and hopefully there'll be some brilliant racing brought to you by IR Esports. My name's been Jake Sperry, and of course we had that women's showcase as well, which saw some brilliant action on top. We'll see you very soon though with IR Esports and more sim racing action.